Technology, please,
Good evening,
Dr.
everyone. My name is Rajat Agrawal. At the outset, let me thank Dr. Partha Biswas and the AIOS Scientific Committee for this honor. I'm here today to speak about artificial intelligence in relation to our field in ophthalmology. At the outset, let's ask ourselves this question: where are we in regards to provision of eye care in a global sense? And the answer to that question is not really good in a way at this time. We do not have adequate provision of eye care to patients around the world. Just as an example, while the population of the world is increasing, people are also living longer, which suggests that the number of lifestyle related diseases or age related issues are only going to increase. Do we have enough resources for this increasing number of patients around the world? And probably the answer to that question is no, not really. There is only a limited number of ophthalmologists around the world at this point of time. Moreover, 80% of the population living with diabetes lives in underserved areas. They not only lack primary eye care facilities, but they even lack primary healthcare facilities, which means that these patients will not only have issues in terms of daily living and employment opportunities, but they will also affect the economic status of their regions and countries around the world where they live. Enter artificial intelligence, or AI, as it is referred to in short. It has come with a lot of promise as well as a lot of hype. With the ability to process information much faster than human beings, as well as being able to make sense of a lot of data as compared to humans, it definitely has a lot of promise in terms of providing clinical care to patients in the clinics and hospitals around the world. The spiraling healthcare costs, regular and timely access to eye care specialists, improving patient flow in the clinics, as well as helping reduce patient wait time while managing eye care specialists' time well, are some of the advantages linked to AI becoming part of the clinics. In addition, it is said to be able to improve patient outcomes since these computers are not distracted in a way by any extraneous factors and do their job well day after day, hour after hour. In clinical studies so far, AI has been found to be much more sensitive than retina specialists in diagnosing diabetic retinopathy. In one example of the use of AI in ophthalmology and especially in retina, AI systems can be placed in primary eye care providers' offices, for example. Cameras can be placed in the office with the technician in the clinic trained to take images, which can either be read by the software embedded in the camera itself or uploaded to the cloud, and the results spit out in seconds. When the patient ultimately goes to the physician, the primary care physician, for his or her follow-up, the physician would be able to make or discuss the outcomes of the eye examination, and the result will be discussed with the patient in detail. In this scenario, the patient will be made aware of his retinal status related to diabetes and whether he has to go visit an eye specialist for an evaluation at all. Coming actually from his primary care physician, who patients tend to visit more regularly and probably believe in more, it is likely to make the patients much more aware and more in compliance with the need for eye care that time or in the future. It is also well known that patients randomly asked to go to see an eye specialist do not end up going, and this is common pretty much everywhere around the world, including here in the US. But if they have been shown an image of their retina by their primary care physician and why they're being asked to go see an eye specialist, they usually tend to follow up that why is more. All that is great with AI, but are there any issues with the current status of AI in terms of provision of eye care to the communities? And the answer is probably yes. And I've divided these issues into 4 different categories. AI systems require a camera to capture the retinal image of the patient. In most cases, the development of the systems have been associated with either 1 or 2 cameras at the most. So, which means that AI systems, once they are in development, they associate themselves with one particular type of camera, and which is usually the process that goes all the way to approval. When we look at these cameras, we realize that most of these cameras currently are pretty expensive. Secondly, AI systems can be programmed to evaluate an image, be it from the eye with an undilated or dilated pupil. In most instances, The cameras associated with such AI systems take an undilated or non-mediatic view of about 45 degrees of the retina, which may not be sufficient to evaluate diabetic retinopathy in the mid-periphery. In addition, if the image is not good quality due to the undilated pupil, there is no one available in the clinic who can usually take a decision in regards to dilating the pupils. Some of these AI systems come embedded within the camera itself, but others are only available in the cloud. For uploading an image of the quality most cameras take at this time and the AI systems require, a good and reliable internet is usually required, which also affects the speed of the response. There have been discussions and publications about the lack of diversity in relation to development of AI systems. Though there have been attempts to develop these systems utilizing real-world data sets, most AI developers have utilized large data sets that mostly include patient images with a certain ethnic and regional background, which leads to the question of ethnic bias in terms of reporting. With pigmentary differences in eyes from different regions around the world, it is quite possible that those systems trained on a certain data set may not be able to report adequately with eyes from other parts of the world. Secondly, most initial attempts to develop AI for use in the clinics have focused on diabetic retinopathy. Though attempts have been made and are still ongoing to incorporate other diseases in the AI armamentarium, it will obviously take some time. There's also this question about how do AI systems correlate with each other? Which one is better, which one is not? Is there a head-to-head study that has been done which allows us to evaluate, in a way, whether the systems, reach a certain mark? Since most of these AI systems, the development takes place independently of each other, there is always a possibility that one system may potentially be better than the other in terms of doing its work. So how do we decide which one is better or not? Actually, there was a study done where they evaluated 7 different systems, and it was found that 1 or 2 systems definitely did better than the others. An important aspect of AI systems utilization is and will be in the underserved areas. Are we really focused on that aspect at this point of time? Developers have to recoup investments made in developing their systems, and hence the price potential may still remain high for some time to come. One item that is likely to keep the cost high is the camera. Portable fundus cameras are probably the way to go. Attempts have also been made to utilize cell phone cameras with adapters for taking retinal images, but the quality of images is still not desirable enough. A curious fact that is of concern is the cost of living in these underserved areas or communities. If we price AI system or screening as per the accepted norms in developed countries, it might reduce the uptake of these systems in these underserved areas. A primary doctor visit in these areas is probably sometimes cheaper as compared to what it would cost patients to pay for AI screening if the cost remains the same as in developed economies, and hence patients and/or doctors may not be amenable to accept a high price point for such services. Lastly, considering there are large pockets of such underserved areas, the companies or their partners will have to be willing and ready to scale up. The more such installations are made, the more these systems are going to be available to patients, and the more the likely of the uptake of these systems in these areas. There has been the term the last mile that has been discussed in the context of AI in different aspects of the AI systems, and one of the systems that usually is used with is in terms of delivery of packages or services. With the lack of ophthalmologists or eye care specialists in these underserved areas, what happens when a patient who's screened on the AI system is told that he or she needs to go see the eye care specialist, probably for a second opinion or maybe for treatment? There is no eye care specialist available anywhere close by. So where does the patient go? So these are some of the challenges that these AI systems and the penetration is faced with, because unless there is availability of eye care specialists in close proximity to these group of patients who need access to them, there will always be a challenge. You're making patients aware that they may have an eye issue that needs to be examined by an eye care specialist, but there is no eye care specialist available close by. So what happens? And that will be a big issue in terms of the long-term aspects. How about some solutions? As I mentioned earlier, portable retinal cameras may be the way to go in the future, or even better, and if possible, cell phone cameras will be the best way to move forwards with, obviously with adapters. There should also be a system in place for dilation of pupils, especially if it's required. And so some method has to be figured out as to how do we decide on patient dilation effects. Though there have been studies such as the SCDR AI study that Retina Global organized and conducted in Bolivia, which demonstrated that ethnic bias in AI systems may not be a significant issue, it is still important for AI development to include images from representative populations around the world, which will prevent bias in diagnosis and reporting of images. AI developers should also focus on multi-disease diagnoses. But how feasible will those systems be for use, especially again in the context of underserved areas? They may be much more complex of a system with a lot more investment required to develop these systems and finally attain approvals, which potentially might increase the pricing, again making it much more difficult for accessibility to underserved areas anywhere around the world. Retina Global is working with partners around the world to provide eye care specialists to such underserved areas and thus trying to bridge the lack of the so-called last mile. To conclude, current and future AI developers should be well advised that while they focus on developing these systems, they should also focus primarily on the problem at hand rather than developing the technology component itself alone. They both go hand in hand, and so it's important for AI developers to focus on the end user, so to speak, so that they provide technology commensurate to what is required on the ground rather than develop this high-end technology that only some institutions around the world would be able to utilize and not the rest of the world. Thank you for patient listening. In case you want to reach out to me, my email is on the slide. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dr. Rajat. Thank you very much for that interesting lecture.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Thakur.